Folks, here we go. A little tardy to the party here, we should say, but welcome on back for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk Workshop. My name is Josh Levitan. Great to have all of us here this July 23rd, a little bit after 11 o'clock, shortly afterwards. Great to have all of our students here. I appreciate your patience. A little tech issue just a moment ago. So there we go. Got Sam, Barbara, Kathleen, Louise, Charles, Laureen, Charlene, Daniel, Alex. The tongue is untied now. Great to have all of us here. Otherwise, and all of us back on YouTube, that is YouTube, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, all of our social media platforms and all of that. So first and foremost, if you're not followed there just yet, let me move my mic, that being at Cyber Trading U. Popping up on the lower left, you'll see right here. If you're new to our meetings, new to our workshops, just make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your feed right there at Cyber Trading U, just to know when we're going live, when we do these streams, when we do these workshops. So here in Traders Talk, this is a roughly 1 hour workshop where we have the chance to go over in-depth trades that ended up moving from earlier today. I got this on the screen right now. Mara, we can go into this in a little bit, but obviously we ended up doing really well on a few trades earlier today. A bunch of our students, quick shout out to my student Charles, who I just worked with before. It's his best day ever. He killed it earlier, among others as well, though. So actually, it was really on the It was on the AZTR trade. Look at this thing. Ended up popping up shortly after pre-market, around 8:45 in the morning, 8:30, 8:45. Completely took off. Ended up going from $2 up towards $5 before the market opened. Then shortly afterwards, obviously exploded from there. We're going to kill a few birds with one stone, or with just one stone here, so to say. We're going to go over this trade. That's the first thing. Also with that, though, I want to go over a few questions that came in from students earlier today, from Phil, from Charlene, and I thought there was one other from private chat as well. But if you have any other questions just all together, let me know. You can send it right over to my email address here. If you're on social, I'll have you type it right here, josh@ctutrading.com. Lower left again, popping up. Any questions that you got for myself here within these workshops, definitely let me know. Was it a little too bright here on the right side here? Let's see. That help? A little bit, not too bad. Let's get a little bit of that. Mix that in there. All right, lighting not so bad, at least on the webcam. But let's go over the AZTR. For all of us inside our live trading room, I just want to see who ended up making money this morning on the AZTR. Inside our live trading room here, I want to hear from you. And who here did well on the AZTR trade today? I want to show this here in our live trading room right now. You got Lee, Irving did a bit, Charlene, Barbara, Kathleen, Phil, Bell, Charles, Leda, boom, all of us, right? So, and I shouldn't say all of us because we have plenty more inside our live trading room than just those, but that's actually a large group of traders to begin with, especially students that have been with C2 for a long amount of time and students that have been with us routinely week after week. So the more that you're with us, these conversations are more ingrained within your head, into your strategy, at least, before the market opens up. I talk a lot about this in phase 2, our phase 2 stock course. Fausto hammers this home in phase 3 when he is trading in front of you. But we need to have a game plan, right? Sounds generic, sounds abstract. We gotta have a game plan. You need to have a plan. If you don't have a game plan, you're going to be lost, right? And when a stock like this is pumping up, I think a lot of us are focused, rightfully so, but at times too focused on the making money aspect. What about the protecting our asses aspect, right? Because this ended up reversing a lot earlier than reversal time hit, right? Reversal time 10:30. Well, if you're expecting reversal time then or around 10:15 even, you're holding on to a big bag, I'm sure, or you're wasting a big profit, as this pulls back much sooner. So we have to actually have a game plan with not just timing, but also where we should find support resistance. Granted, the stock popped in pre-market, after 8:30 in the morning, it took off. So let's actually just show the news out on this trade really quick. If you're joining us on social media, I'll actually bring up my Benzinga Pro feed. We love the fine folks over at Benzinga Pro. Let's take a look over here. AZTR, right? So at 8 o'clock in the morning, looks like the news came out then. AZTR strengthens global intellectual property portfolio with newly granted and allowed patents. Now, they expand upon that. It's in relation to treatment for atopic dermatitis. Here's a little bit more info in regards to that. So again, Benzinga Pro, great tool to use here. 8 o'clock in the morning, a couple other news hits there, 8:12, etc. So it goes to show you don't want to buy the stock just because the news came out, right? We didn't know that this would pop necessarily. Not every stock that comes out with news will look to make a pop. So It took 30 minutes for the wheels to get moving on this trade, it seems, if not more. News came out at 8 o'clock. It popped at like 8:40 even. So, let's say you caught it here at this point. We're calling it out inside our live trading room pretty much at this point when it's blasting higher. It's on our scanners at this stage, not just Benzinga. It's breaking above resistance at $2. So let's just kind of start from there and go through the motions of what to look for in a trade. And hey, if you didn't trade this within the pre-market hours altogether, I don't blame you. This thing was up, a lot very quickly. But you should be using this time in pre-market from the time it broke out here to the time the market opened up to figure out your game plan to figure out your game plan for after the market opens up, right? So, this ended up making a pretty strong run to begin. I will be just very transparent with you. It doesn't look like there's any real orders out there at first. You got maybe 5,000 shares on the ask, 5,200 shares on the ask at 264. That was a resistance. Once it rebroke that resistance here, it took off nicely, but it's very thin volume out there. You got one order on the bid here at 160. That doesn't guarantee the stock to run up. It's easy to say it did, but what would have made this even sweeter, I would have said, if this order laddered up, if it pulled on the bid and moved up higher, pulled on the bid, moved up higher, that right there gives me good opportunity to expect continuation. So we didn't see that here. It's just to say, at least, hey, there's a lot of room where this stock ran off of just tiny peanut volume. And it's risky. You don't want to just jump in, right? So you know what? Let's just say if you missed it from here, this 264, like we had said, that's like the only semi-real order out there on the ask. Well, it took off. Let me ask us here in chat really quick for all of us here. Barbara, Charles, I see Keith, I see Phil, Bell, all of us here in chat. When a stock breaks above resistance and it runs off of it, resistance should initially look to become what? I don't know if you can hear any humming in my background noise right now. I got a home office here, probably right below me. I got these people working right below me. It's annoying. We're fighting through it here, folks. Support. When a stock breaks above resistance and it runs off of it. All right, well, you know what? If you missed it from 264 resistance, there's a thought that it could be support. Obviously, it doesn't pull back there, but it's a thought. Like, okay, maybe if it drops down, like that would be a thought to see support build, then pop. Obviously, in hindsight, it didn't work out that way. I like to call myself Captain Hindsight, right? Because in these workshops, it's easy to tell you what a stock did afterwards, right? Let's just shoot straight with each other here, right? I say Captain Hindsight in a joking way. We're not really trying to live off of hindsight, but we're trying to, see the patterns that allowed a stock to make a move upward or downward and to revisit those patterns live going forward. Join us in class, join us in our workshops, join us in our coaching program and inside our live trading room each and every morning and afternoon. So, that didn't happen. Obviously, it ended up breaking out a little bit more. How about this? Let me ask our students here more, like Irving, Grant, Barbara, Kathleen, etc. Danny, great to have Danny back with us here. Is there any other big level? Is there a big volume area? Is there a big level that is on this heat map at this point? We talked about this at 264, moved up already from there. Is there a big level ahead on this trade? Is there something that's very large on this stock that's either out there on the order book or is building? Maybe it's building to be a big level. Few of us saying few of us saying $4. And you know what? Hey, in the art of focusing in on whole number levels, I would assume for it to be the next level. I would assume it to be. It's like you get lost in the woods, you find your way home, you have to look up and see the North Star, right? I always say this, our North Star in trading, our North Star in level 3 and level 4, it really is whole number levels. $4, great answer. There's only 2,500 shares though there, right? That's an assumed level. That doesn't mean that's like confirmed. So I'll use that. That's potential. But let's look over here. Let's look at the CVP column here, right? I was alluding to this as far as building to be a level. So like 360-ish and like 350-ish, we'll say the area, the combination between the two, right? Let's go into numbers here. Man, I got this humming going on. I don't know if it's behind me, below me. Oh boy, we're fighting through this here. Well, there's a lot of volume built up in this area. I'm just saying that numerically. Look at the numbers here. It might be tough to read, but 61,000, 52,000, 52,700. What that means is that that's all pent up volume. That's volume that's been filled and traded from this consolidation, mind you, from this consolidation. But folks, let me ask you a quick question. I think you know where I'm going with this, at least if you're Barbara, Kathleen, Alex, Ray, Patrick, one of our students here. What's a larger size? You tell me. Can you tell me what a larger number is? Is it 2,500 shares here? Or is it, I don't know, 61,000 shares here? What's a bigger size? You tell me. So where we're focused on, how big is big, our best entries are directly after a stock breaks through a big level on the way up. It's basically to tell you, just this consolidation is going to be very strong as far as identifying the next area to enter off of, right? I'll even turn the heat map off because it looks a little annoying just to kind of see it at times. Just to, plot the level, right? Basically a 360, we'll say, the upper of the two, right? Great question here from one of our trial members. What does CVP stand for? It stands for chart range volume profile. Chart volume profile. Chart range volume profile, it's called. So it shows you the amount of shares, how much volume has been filled at what prices on the day. Not what orders are out there right now. That's what the heat map is for. That's like, this and all this here. But otherwise, that CVP will show you how much volume has been filled where across the given day. So the more I zoom out, the more I zoom in, these spikes fluctuate. So it's just to say on this more local area here, local time frame, this has been building up pretty well as a nice little volume area here, 350, 360-ish. The more it can stab into it going up, we're seeing more buying interest. So the more times it does it in a smaller time frame, this is only a matter of minutes here within the pre-market hours, but it keeps going up higher. All right, well, maybe that resistance area can get flipped into support. Just shooting from the hip, it's possible, right? So if that doesn't happen, then you have to figure out where your next one is. But that 360 did give you a good area to enter from. $4 was a little shaky at first. It was a little shaky at 4. Not a surprise because it wasn't so big at first. It had to prove itself. Now look at the CVP after it broke back over 4, after it moved back up to 4, it cleared over. Well, yeah, there was a lot more volume at that point after the consolidation, right? This wasn't a big level at first because there was only nobody out there, 4,000 people at that point, right? 6,000 people, I guess, over time, but that's still not big. So, of course, this just kept going up and up and up and up, right? There's a lot that we could talk about with this move altogether, but here's the thing, right? We're going to focus on this after the market opened up. A couple of rules here. A, the more stock goes up, you got to figure big trees fall hard. B, we typically should be getting out of our trades by 9:10 in the morning, by 9:15 in the morning, the latest. You typically need to get out of your trades by then. Why? Well, typically, big trees fall hard. It's likely to pull back, or otherwise, it's likely to consolidate. So in the time it's consolidating, it's not really going anywhere. We could always try and jump back in on the trade by the time the market opens up, or after the first 5 minutes, I should say. And if it's not on this stock, it could be on another stock. It could be on ADIL. It could be on SLRX. Cat's out the bag, folks. We had a stock that moved up 500% today. Typically what happens is after a stock like this makes a big move, runs up a zillion percent, 500, however many percent, you're going to have other day traders out there that are going to try and pump up the next stock, pump up the next one after that. So I mean it. If you get out of this trade by 9:10, 9:15, you are doing yourself so many favors. So many. A, there's other stocks out there for you to focus on. B, there is a good chance this pulls back. Listen, this thing was at $1.75 at 8:30 in the morning. It's now at 5:50. Imagine waking up and seeing that, and you were underwater for months on end. You were holding on to a losing position. Next thing you know, you're up like 400%. What would you do? Take the money and run, right? Get out of the trade. So not only do you want to give the stock a chance to breathe and relax before the market opens, but if you were in this trade here in pre-market, give yourself the luxury of taking a step back and breathing, right? Just relax. We got the whole day here to make our money. So, hey, if this goes up, you could jump back in it. If it goes up and you miss it, again, folks, that wasn't the only one that moved today. ADIL, BBLG, SLRX, and among others. So Again, we got to kind of just take ourselves away from the psychology of like fear of missing out. There's always going to be another trade. Now, here though, and this is where I'll say it consolidates before the market opens. So, it gives us time to figure out where our levels are. There aren't really too many good levels to work with here. It's really just the pre-market levels that we were first looking at. These orders get pulled from the bid, so that doesn't help us too much in the grand scheme right before the market opens. You don't really have a huge resistance ahead. That might sound like a good thing, but you actually want to have resistance. You actually want to have momentum, increasing momentum. And when a stock breaks over resistance, when it does, you get increasing momentum. So at least to have a resistance there would have been nice. I would say this is like the only big area at this point, right? It's like just this giant lump of volume here. And it's just an area. It's not even one specific price. As I zoom in, it's like this whole area, this whole glob of volume. So if you want to use that as an area to enter off of, you can kind of just loosely give it that area for right now. Turn the heat map off. Right around 513 to 529. That's a big ass area. I don't like having two prices that are so far apart to act as an area of support resistance. If it's going to be an area of support rather than just one level of support, I'd rather have that area be like very tightly knit, like 5-10 cents apart, not like 15. We're getting close to 18. So that's a lot. Now, market opens up. Ooh, it actually pops right before the open. So it breaks out right before the market opens up. This is, you're going to miss this trade either way. And then, of course, it broke out instantly here. Okay. So what happened after? Is there an entry afterwards? I'll tell you, this thing is so damn strong by the time the market opened up that normally I would be using this green dot, this green ball, this green dot as a level to enter off of. This would be a critical point for us to trade off of here by the time this reopens up from a halt. And I'll tell you what, I don't want to jump too far ahead here because I'll tell you what, we got class coming up on Friday, right? We had class just yesterday, the phase 2 stock course, and coming up later this week on Friday, do a whole class on how to trade halts. So that's where I'll show you in depth really what this means. This green ball, this green dot. I'll have a full 60-minute class to dissect that there. Point being, I would have wanted to have used this as an entry level. It didn't even pull back enough. It didn't drop that far even here. It just kind of held higher and moved up. So you can't use that. That's easy to say in hindsight. Man, this consolidates for what, 3-4 minutes here? This still isn't even a whole lot of time. This is only about 4 minutes worth of time here. It's not a lot. Is there an area that's building up? Is there a new area that's building up to be a pretty big spike of volume, a pretty good spike of volume that's been building within this consolidation? What do we got? Grant, Ravi, Danny, Ray, what do we got? Mr. T, I pity the fool on YouTube, asking, what's the name of that program? I appreciate you joining us, Mr. T. I mean no harm. No, it's to say this is Bookmap. This is AK, as we nickname it, Level 4. But the fine folks from Bookmap, that is a great program. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to pull that back. So where do we have that big volume area? Where do we have that big volume area? Looking at that CVP column. Sam says the A team. I don't know if it's the real Mr. T. Danny, Michael, Grant from earlier, right? Saying $9. $9. A lot of volume's been building up there, and that's actually a better spike. That's a more distinct, prominent spike. It shows that more at that one exact price compared to a wide area, you have a lot of volume filled there compared to everywhere else. So the more times this area gets stabbed at going up from this point, I feel more bullish. That would be my thought process behind that. Now I'll pull this back. That was at what, $9? Jeez. So it's crazy seeing a stock move up that much, that fast, especially from pre-market. And there's still opportunity to take a clean entry, especially after it reopens up from a halt. And actually numerous entries, might I say. Folks, really quick, Michael, Sam, Danny, all of us here in chat, when a stock breaks above resistance and it runs from resistance, what would we expect that resistance to become? What do we got? resistance should become what? Support, right? So, hey, there's two opportunities here. From this pent up consolidation, you have the level at 9. So by the time it re-breaks over 9, that creates your entry. Nice day trade entry here. It moves up what? 3 points? That's insane. That's ridiculous to begin with, right? You're not necessarily expecting that big of a pop. May have even gotten halted in this process after, but that's insane. Well, hey, guess what? When a stock breaks above resistance and it runs off of it, resistance should initially become support. Does this look like it holds support? My tongue is tied now. Right here at $9. Does this look like it holds support? I'd say it does. I'd say it actually perfectly does in accordance to our strategy. Like to a naked chart, does it look like it holds support? No. No, it crashes under it. But no level is going to hold perfectly all the time. And if this breaks under this level, there's a way to trade it. That's what we look for. That's what we actually want to see happen. What if this breaks under the level and just keeps dropping? Well, buying on the way down is the complete definition of just catching a falling knife. So we don't want this to break under the level and just tank. It broke under the level and dropped a little bit. Looks like it held perfectly under 9 after as resistance. Perfectly. Dropped again a little bit. Didn't make a lower low after that. Well, on the next time it moves back up to 9, it breaks back over the level. Goes under and over. So, resistance here became support. It broke under, and then once it breaks through this big level on the way up, that generates your next type of entry to look for that support. So pretty clean entry here, I might say. Now, it doesn't make the higher high after. No surprise. This stock is up a zillion percent today. It's at $1.73 this morning. It was at $12 here. Come on. So eventually, if it's not going to make that higher high, you have to realize it. If it's not going to continue to go up, then there's a better chance of it breaking down below support. So this is really your best opportunity to realize the support here. Otherwise, I guess unless if it's like a lotto type of opportunity, once in a million chance, maybe it does keep going up higher, but the more it doesn't go up higher, the more it fails to make that big move going up, it's going to make a big move just going down, right? Yeah, Sam, it does an under and over at 9. Exactly. Just reading your chat right now, just catching up there. Yeah, exactly. Now, at this point, I think this trade's cooked. You can't expect any stock to just keep going up and up and up and up multi-day, let alone one day. So this did as good as we could afford it to do. Now, hey, if you were not any of our traders earlier that wrote that you got a small piece of the pie or maybe more, like Charlene, Barbara, Kathleen, Phil, Bell, Leda, etc., Charles, and all of us, there were other trades. Listen, this stock had a huge spread. Right now, this stock, big spread, thin order book, no bueno. And that's what it looked like earlier. So, that's where I was kind of rummaging through here. And there really weren't too many clean entries to begin with. That's because there were like invisible people out there. There were like nobodies out there. When there's very thin orders out there, when there's like tiny people, that's not good. That doesn't mean it's like a good sign. If the stock is trending up and there's no resistance, it sounds good. It sounds good because, hey, that means that there's very little resistance for the stock to blast through. So why shouldn't it go? Well, the reason it shouldn't go, or the reason why it wouldn't go, would be if there's no actual people on the bid to support it, if there's no actual people buying it market to blast through. We'll talk more about that in phase 2, I reckon, but it's not just seeing the orders out here. Not just seeing the orders, it's having the orders getting broken through. So that's where, if this was too dangerous for you, if you felt more uncomfortable trading the stock, I don't blame you. And you know what? We got to move on from a stock like this if we feel uncomfortable sooner rather than later. Because hey, when the market opens at 9:30, we wait the first 5 minutes. But really, at that point, we look to try and take advantage of opportunities. So hey, this ADIL was a great trade, not only because it moved up, but look at the order book. Tight spread, larger orders out there, 10,000 here, 23,000 there, 30K there. Doesn't look good now. But point being is that it had this type of liquidity in pre-market. It had this type of liquidity after the market opened. This was an easier stock for anyone, me, Fausto, or the brand new student to have their eyes on. Yeah, it didn't go up as much as AZTR, but you don't need to focus on the shiny object in the room to make money. It's as simple as that. So for ADIL, let's go over this here pretty quick. This was actually a nice pre-market trade I caught early on this morning. It was after this order on the bid showed up at 115. It ended up popping up pretty nicely, but I ended up getting out too soon. I took like 23 cents it was at the time. Hey, moved up higher after. Ended up topping off right around resistance here at 184 at the time that we had. Pulled back. Okay, well, again, if you weren't trading this in the pre-market hours, if you were more focused on this stock for after the market opened up, cool. Let's do that then, right? So I'll just be point blank and I'll say, right, we have resistance at $2, like 10,000, 11,000 shares. You kind of got more volume here at 180, 185 though. So really what's ahead at 2, you'd assume for that to be a level. There is a little volume there, but it seems like there's even more here at 180-ish, 185, right? On the COB column. Just want to point that out. That's the first thing. Just point that out. But let me ask us all now this question. What price sticks out on the CVP? What price shows a larger, more prominent, distinct spike of volume on that CVP column? From KG, what stock is that on the chart? Can't see. Oh, no problem at all. It's on ADIL right now. You could see it right here, actually. It's like, see where my cursor is? You got the tab right here on the top for KG on YouTube. Chart is that on the, what stock is that in the chart, right? There you go. All right, so what level lines up prominently on that CVP column? 160, right? A lot of us are saying 160. Well, you know what? I mean, that is the answer, of course. I will say it looks like there's already a few attempts where it stabs over this level, right? We're already seeing some good buying activity, it seems, off of this 160. So it broke above it right before the market opened up. Moving up a little bit, about 13, 14 cents off of that level. This is all before the market opens. That's where I would look for this resistance to become support, right? It sticks out pretty prominently on the CVP column. So it broke above it already here. It was moving off of it already before the open. It didn't come down to it yet before 9:30. Here we go. This is it right here. 9:22. First test right here. Took off right away after. That doesn't shock me, I reckon, but it did hold. And then as soon as the market opened up, it took off. Okay. So it takes off pretty shortly after the open. All in the first 5 minutes, this just moves up to 220, then pulls back. This stinks to see because obviously you want to have the chance to jump in on a runner like this before it moves up, right? This all happens in the first 5 minutes. So I'm sitting on my hands. I didn't take this trade. Fausto's sitting on his hands. He didn't take this trade. It's a shame. Now, at this point, I'm not sure if we're going to see 160 again. It just exploded from there. It already popped from there earlier here. So we don't want to see support keep getting poked at this point. It already did its job here at this point. Thing ran up 60 cents. All right, well, what's our next level? Where's our next level here, folks? What's our next, not just level, we'll say plural. What's our next levels? I will tell you there's probably 2 answers I'll lean towards here at this point. There's 2 answers I'll kind of focus on here. Grant saying 220. Well, if you look at the 220, it's like the top. It's like an orange line. It's like 36,000 shares, I guess, there, right? If we look on the heat map, was there a darker red line on the heat map throughout the morning here? When it popped, when it broke out, was there a darker orange line? Was there a darker red line on the left side? Sam saying, yes, at 180. Yeah, right here, right? Charles seeing this here, right? Is this at 180? It's popped up right before, right after the open. You know, this wasn't there at first. So let's see. How big was that? 84,525 shares. 84,000 shares. This is about 30,000 shares here at 220. So how big is big, right? So that's pretty prominent. 180. It broke above that shortly after the open. Maybe that wasn't such a clear level at first, but that should be pretty clear now at this point, right? If it does pull back, look for 180 to be that support. Otherwise, though, what's our level? What's our other level I wanted? Two, right? I see Danny saying two, right? Danny P, Danny W. Got two Dannys here. There we go. Both saying two. Perfect. And yes, CVP once again sticking out, this time at two. Listen, folks, I don't make this stuff up, and I didn't take this trade myself here today. I was trading Mara. I was trading my BTBT. All of our students in our trading room know that. I was calling that out all throughout the first hour, calling out Coinbase, right, Sam? Right? I was looking at Coinbase earlier. I wasn't as much on ADIL myself after 9:30. There's other fish in the sea to catch. I mean, I was calling out CGC as well. That also made a little move at first. I should miss that trade as well. But just to say, at least I didn't have this planned before I started this workshop today. I didn't like know that this is where I was leading to on this trade. I didn't have this orchestrated right before Traders Talk, right? I mean, Charles, I was with you on a coaching call. So, keep in mind if you want me to really peel back the curtain on Traders Talk, I don't care. I'll just put it that way. I'll be as perfectly honest as possible. I don't have like an agenda. I don't have a notepad in front of me when I do Traders Talk. I don't have things lined up to like show you in advance. Like we plot the levels and we show you what happens afterwards. This is a real raw reaction. So you should be as impressed by this as anything because it goes to show that this resistance, it popped up after the market opened, right? It popped up after the market opens. And that resistance became support after. Every one of us answered that just a moment ago, right? Support. Now, Sam, comment from Sam, VWAP is support. Well, it lines up really well. This is a nice tight area. This is like 3 pennies apart. So if you want to line that iceberg level that we had here, the 84K at 180 with the VWAP, that's a nice tight range there. It's only a few pennies apart. So it helps. If you don't even focus on the VWAP, though, it's just to simply say that 180 resistance, 180 support. Once it rebroke above the CVP level here at 2, right here, off and running it went, right? Big move shortly after, my friends. Now, what's our next assumed resistance? I'm not going to show the heat map at this point. What's our next assumed resistance here? What do we got? We'll say if you're joining us on YouTube right now, if you enjoy what you see here so far, we're going to pop up the QR code coming up here in just a moment. On the top left, you'll see just scan that QR code if you're interested. Ooh, hello. Quick sec here. We'll try and get that fixed here, I guess. There we go. I think it's a little bulky right there. We'll reload that as we finish up our workshop. Scan that QR code over the next 2 minutes. It'll be up there for the next 2 minutes. Join our trading room. Just join our live trading room for a week-long trial if you're interested in what you see here. But otherwise, hey, what's our next assumed resistance out there without even looking at the heat map? Sam says, amazing that the 80K did not get executed. I thought it did. Let's see. It did. Sam, it did. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that thing did. See the big spike here? It's 115,000 shares in total, right? I got filled for sure. But our next assumed resistance would be, assumed, I have the heat map back on now, at $3, right? Not much there. 30,000, I reckon. But now we're starting to get some crazy bid volume out there, like 205,000 share iceberg popping up all the way down below. So when you see the order at 3, it's 30,000. It's not like that spectacular compared to the orders that we've seen. Not compared to this, not compared to the 84K at 180. So you might take it lightly. Looks like it gets a little larger over time. Point being, after a stock has made a big move already, a stock has already ran up, it would be extremely foolish to think that the stock is just going to keep going up. You would like to think that the first time that the stock hits a major level, a big resistance, even if it's assumed, you want to be more safe than sorry. You want to be on the side of safe rather than on the side of sorry. So what happens here? It goes up to 3. It doesn't even break over 3. This is actually so perfect and flawless. It's Amazing. So you want to sell under this level anyway to just take the profit if you didn't already get out. But point being is that if you were looking for an entry from here, you don't want to take it because you're expecting this resistance to hold. And I don't even mean perfectly. I mean a false breakout as well. Like if this breaks above this here, I would not be jumping in because I'd be expecting a false breakout. It doesn't even make a false breakout. It's so clean and perfect. It just goes up to 3, ding, drops right back down. Simple as that. Um, so if it broke over 3, I still would have just been saying, don't take the entry. That's where you expect the false breakout and bam, right? Yeah, this trade's done with now at this point, though. I'd say the ADIL, I think, is pretty much cooked at this stage. I want to go over a couple things really briefly, though, and I may have done so as we analyze those stocks, as we analyze those trades. We may have kind of covered this in between. But I want to go over just a couple emails and messages I got just from traders earlier today. This one came in from Charlene just early, and more or less, not going to go through the email in its entirety, but basically to say, a bit of frustration from one of our students, Charlene, basically just on the aspect of getting stopped out frequently. She knows that her stops are too tight. Because of this, she takes profits too early. Um, and that's basically it, Charlene. That's basically what we'll focus on throughout that email. Uh, she says, I'm also very busy this month and knew better than to trade at all. It's addictive. Uh, well, that's a very good point to make as far as the passion behind trading. I brought this up in our discipline psychology class just actually yesterday morning, really quick. One more time, may as well show it. For all of us on YouTube, Facebook Live, keep in mind, we have our trading room. This is our main curriculum. This is what we offer in full to all of our full-fledged students, phases 1, 2, 3. Right now, we're in phase 2. But, we talked about this just yesterday morning in discipline psychology class. But it's just to say that all of us are here. I'd say more because we want to be here rather than we have to be here. Am I right with that? Like, I don't think anyone's forced to be here right now. It means that we all like being here. We like this. We like the trading room. The trading room promotes being more at your desk. It's exciting. It's fun. Well, that can be your enemy if we focus too much on that. If we love it too much, we can become addicted to it, right? We got to have boundaries. We got to have breaks. We got to have other things in life that we enjoy outside of staring at a bright computer screen, right? All that blue light probably isn't too good for you. So no, it's just to say at least that that is a common thought for a lot of us. We love being here. So we might not always call it addictive. We might not think of it that way, but just realize that if you ever find it hard to step away from your desk, you don't have to be here, right? So think of it more psychologically in that sense. Like give yourself breaks. Learn to, enjoy other things or do other things that take time away from trading because if you feel like you're over trading at least, that's the first thing that we need to tackle. Because if you're over trading, you're probably taking very irrational entries, regardless of how much you're making money or losing money. You're probably just taking irrational entries if you're over trading. So we either need to focus on how to make those entries better, or a lot of the times, actually, the best resolution is to trade less. Trade less, don't trade at all, right? Sometimes that's the best trade to take. Now, that's just abstract advice. That just is for everyone here. But more or less, I'm going to work with Charlene on the side. Just going to have her send me her trades just, from yesterday. We'll talk through private. But basically, yesterday, it looks like she traded 2 stocks, Mira and CMAX. I will say, Mira, big trees fall hard. We talked about this yesterday, and before AZTR this morning, I reckon we should have even said it was Mira yesterday that kind of kicked everything off as far as stocks up 500% go. Okay, so more or less, Mira is a good trade to look at in pre-market because it's not up that much at first. So, we normally don't trade these cheapy stocks below $1. So we probably caught this a bit late anyway. Let's say even after 9:30 it popped, just like the other one, just like the ADIL, just like the AZTR, pops right away. You focus on it then. There could be opportunities here at this point. It's easy to show you what happened afterwards, right? But when you think of it more in the sense of ADIL and AZTR, like here it's 935. It's not up as much as it was later on. So the more it's up percentage wise, naturally, it's going to pull back. Big trees are going to fall hard. It's going to tank because how often have they tanked after they've made these extensive runs? So uh, at this point, there's a little more focus where, like, okay, maybe it can make a higher high again. Maybe it could. Obviously, it took a while still for it to get going up until like 11 o'clock a.m. But the more it goes up, 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 up in this sense, and if you're not in it, I'm moving on to other stocks because you can't necessarily predict in terms of time when this will top, especially when this got halted as many times as it did. I don't mind seeing a stock get halted once or twice, but the more times it gets halted up and down collectively, I just refrain from. It's just more of a casino stock. It's just more something you're just trying to roll the dice on. There are easier trades to take at this time of the day. I guarantee you that because I know that because yesterday we were talking about this. Oh no, it was Hive. It was the other one. We were talking about Hive yesterday, right? It was 11:30 in the morning, and this broke out pretty nicely. The slow and steady won the race here, right? You didn't need to trade the crazy stock in the trading room to make your money. Point being is that let's just say if you were focused on this stock after 11 o'clock, as it's going up like this, it's not even the fact it's going up as much as it is. It's just the gaps. It's the halts. The amount of halts that this thing has in this short time, I stay away from because it's much more unpredictable. It's not as easy to make a decision as far as where to get out, when to get out. And if you get stuck in a down halt, that's twice as bad as the benefit of being in an up halt, if you know what I mean. Like when you're in an up halt, you feel great because you feel like the stock's going to keep going up. When you're in a down halt, obviously you have that same feel on the flip side, but typically down halts lead to a much lower drop off after. Like look at the size of this drop here after. Got halted on the way down, reopened up and got just there's no exit. You can't exit here until 295. So that's something I want all of our students to focus on going forward. That's our little free game for the day because again, last time I'll do this here. I'm in teacher mode right now, so pardon me. But we got a class coming up on Friday this week, folks, for all of our students, how to trade halts. I will go over that a lot further then, trust me. Now, that's just one stock. That's just Mira, right? But how about CMAX? How about CMAX here? CMAX, did that get halted umpteen times over like the Mira trade? Got halted once, but it didn't really move. I don't think this got halted really afterwards, did it? It did pretty good. Not even here as a halt. I don't think this stock got halted at all in this sequence here. I mean, got halted here. Afterwards, it shook around. I don't think it got halted again in this area, so ran up nicely. Now, I just say this to you because let's say you turned over to the stock already and it got halted 4 or 5 times previous. That's not good. Stay away. If this stock is, up a lot percentage-wise and it really hasn't been getting halted too frequent, there's still a lot of danger involved with trading a stock like this. There truly is. I don't know if I'll be able to go back in time on CMAX here for Bookmap yesterday. I don't know if I have the data for this actually. See if I can go back. But point being is that, if you're turning over to this stock, it's breaking higher here and it's only one halt, I at least feel a little more tame. Okay, so I can get some data here, just not from that initial run. Not from that initial run. Give me a sec. I'm going to ask us here a question here. I'm going to pull up the data from basically 12:30. We know it popped, right? Captain Hindsight comment, right? Looks like we had a good top roughly around this area, right? Top here, held under it here, false breakout here, and it came back down. What price is that? 444? 444? Little chart level, right? Just little chart level resistance. Once it broke above resistance, it flipped it into support, and then it completely went, right? That sounds simple. Let's just use this to make this easy. Where do we have our resistance here, folks? Where do we have our dark red line, dark orange line here on this heat map? I'm going to finish up traders talking about 5 or so minutes. There we go. Greg says, I only love it when I win. Don't we all, Greg? Don't we all love it when we just win? Yeah, right. It feels great getting out of a losing trade only to see the stock tank afterwards. So, I don't want to be as emotional with that. Like, because there's like, I guess, spite involved or maybe like vengeance involved, seeing the stock just keep dropping after you get out. Like, just move on. But it does make you feel good because it's like, wow, I just saved my ass on that trade. If I didn't get out where I did, all right. So things like that you do want to focus on in that perspective. But where do we have our iceberg, folks? Where's our iceberg here? This one's pretty simple. 440, about 30,000 shares. This was yesterday afternoon, right after we finished up the morning session. Basically, this time yesterday onward. Well, it broke above the iceberg. It broke above the chart level here too, mind you. Again, little chart level. What would I rather focus on, though? Little chart level or big iceberg? You tell me. I'd rather primarily focus on big iceberg, but it's great when the big iceberg coincides with the chart level. when they coincide pretty nicely, they're just 4 pennies apart. That's like more and more evidence being out there for you to make your conviction. So as soon as this broke over this 440 area, beautiful move. Now at that point, hey, let's keep going though, because if you missed it from there, that's where we don't want to chase, right? I'm saying this to everyone, regardless, who had sent this email. We have others to go through. So Charlene, Phil, Robbie, I think a couple more. But basically, just to say, if you missed it from 440, our next major resistance does not appear to be until 550, then 580. So that's like an area. That's like a fat area. I'm not a fan of seeing that really as much. Maybe we'll use this to begin, at 550. There's more in this area than there is at 5. As much as you'd use $5 is a big level. And it could be a good level, but I would say 550 to 580 was the better. Let's see. Well, it's smashed above it here on this next bar. So right away, it's smashed above resistance. And even if you expected resistance to hold right there, well, obviously it blasts right over it. So you know what? I'm going to try and go through some other chats and questions here in just a bit. But just to kind of ask for all of us here, one more time, you answered this for me earlier. When a stock breaks resistance, it runs off of it. Even if it's an unexpected break, I would have expected some resistance to hold here. But you know what? If this just blows the freaking roof off the place, we got to roll with the stock. We got to change our attitude a bit. So, you know what? If we expected resistance to hold here and it blows the roof off the place, what should that resistance become? Support. And, my friends, this goes under and over. It goes under and over. It makes my under and over move. It does everything you'd want it to do. It plays by our rules perfectly. Not every stock does. So that's where it's a little annoying missing out on a move, right? If we are grounded to the rules that we're going through in class, you know what? Shit, this thing popped so fast and it's unexpected. Guess what? This became support. Under, over, bam. And you know what? Afterwards, 580, we'll say, broke above 580 and it held above that after for the next move. So that's where ultimately, I'm just going to say this to everyone here. The more that, well, I'll just say this really. We miss out on trades all the time. You, me, Fausto, whomever. I mean, if we're at our desk, if we're not at our desks. If we're watching one stock, what about all the other stocks that we're not watching? Aren't we missing out on those moves? I bring it to you that way because coming off our psychology class just yesterday, we have to yank our leash a little bit and just be like, listen, we're missing out on trades all the time. If a stock pops without us, who cares? It wasn't the first, won't be the last. We have to focus on the strategy at hand. It's not just focus movement. Oh, it popped. No, listen, hey, it broke above resistance. Okay, it's fast. fast moving. Just like all of us answered here in chat, resistance should become support at first. At first. Now, here it did, and it moved up higher. Well, the next time it comes down to it, if you're looking for support, let's just say here, you'd want to see it break under and over, a little nip under and over, like it did here, like same candle almost. It broke under this here. The next candle, it held under it here and crashed. That's not good. That's not what you want to see happen. So when we see support get broken through completely, support over time becomes resistance. And that resistance becomes support again. Look what happened here. Wow, at $5 on C max. Look what happened once again. Actually, a couple stabs here. So really 5 was a strong level over time heading into the end of the day. But point being is just that stocks will move up and down always without us. And I know it's not easy to yank our own leashes back a bit and just be like, calm down a little bit, Josh. Calm down, all right? And like if this goes without you, and you know what? The more it goes without you, then you kick yourself because you're like, oh shit, I should have taken that trade. I knew it. Oh, I would have killed it on this stock. We have to do our best at just focusing in on that, we'll just say that invisible packet of instructions, right? Given to you in class. We go over the whole strategy throughout our sequence in phases 1 and 2. But it's to tell you at least that, like, if you're building a piece of furniture, you have a packet of instructions you got to follow. The more you don't follow that packet and you're looking at all these 80,000 pieces that you got to use to build it, you probably become a little nervous. You probably become a little scared and like, oh, shoot, I don't know how to do all this. Well, the more you ignore that packet of instructions, the more discouraged you become at building it. The more time goes on that it's not built and you don't get what you want. So that's where I say to anyone here, because I know Charlene's been following our, instructions. I work with her on the side chat. She's a great trader here, but it's just to say for all of us, if we miss out on stocks move without us, that's okay. Let's normalize that, because the more that we do, the more that we're able to put our strategy at use, the more that we're able to put it under a microscope and realize, all right, why did this make the move that it made? And the more that we have these realizations, the hope is to carry that going forward into the next trading day, right? So, I'll work with Charlene just with trades on the side. We'll go more into that further, as well as, Phil, Ravi, all of us here that had emailed me previously, just to say at least that if you have an issue with stops, perhaps you are setting them too tight. Maybe it's possible. More often than not, when students come to me with journals and they say that they got stopped out here, stopped out there, I will look at the entries right away. And I'll be the first to kind of say, you know what, we got to, focus a little less here on the entry and focus a little more here, because that could shift your dynamic with taking the trade. That shifts your dynamic with setting a stop that doesn't need to be set because there's no trade to be taken, right? So every trade begins with the entry, and every entry begins with a big level, right? So for as fast as these stocks are moving, we have to do our best at staying grounded and being like, okay, where do we have our next big level here coming up? Mara, good example. I took a loss on this earlier with my student, Charles. We had support that was from the daily chart around this area, around this range, we'll say. I don't like this range. It's kind of a fat range. It's like 20-cent range there. Well, I was looking for this area to become support on a pullback because it broke above it here. I was looking for this to be support. What happened? So it came down, and I thought I'd be able to grab a quick entry for a slingshot, and it just kept dropping and going. It broke below and stopped me out. So, it's just to say, hey, we could be there right place, wrong time. And then otherwise, if the stock makes a move later on, if I'm watching it, I'll try and capitalize on that same trade. But otherwise, I'd rather take this type of trade and get stopped out than take this trade and then hang on and hope, or try and take it another 10 times after when I don't need to take it. Because look what happened after. This range of support is starting to become, at least here, a range of resistance. So there's no need to take that trade based off of core charting principles, right? Really quick, going to pop up that QR code really quick for all of us on social media, just at Cyber Trading You if you're interested in joining us from YouTube, on Facebook Live, LinkedIn, etc. Scan that QR code right there. Gives you week-long access to our live trading room, audio broadcasts in the morning, afternoon, full-fledged chat commentary with all of our students, myself, and of course, head honcho Fausto there all throughout the day. But otherwise, we do this workshop each and every week on Tuesday mornings. If you're interested in joining us and for future editions, feel free to shoot me over a quick email as well on top, josh@c2trading.com. I want to go over, just before we finish up really briefly, just one more question that came in. This one came in from Ravi, and I just wanted to get this before we finish here. Phil, I'm going to write you back on the side, my friend. In today's AZTR trade, the max profit potential was if you bought the stock in pre-market. Are we expected to buy in pre-market? So that's definitely a captain hindsight, right? So not every stock will pop perfectly from pre-market, right? If we bought every stock in pre-market or every stock when the news came out, and if every stock moved up immediately afterwards, none of us would be here. I wouldn't be on a microphone doing this, right? Fausto wouldn't be doing. None of us would be here. So we don't want to live in that realm. But that's where I did break down EZTR for you, Robbie. I took 30 minutes going over the whole move, basically showing you on strategy how you could have looked to have traded the stock. Now, with that said, if you are a new student, we don't want you to be trading pre-market at first. You can't set stops in pre-market, and you can't use market orders in pre-market. So if you're not familiar with using limit orders, and if you're scared with not setting a stop, if you're not familiar with trading without a stop, then we don't want you trading pre-market yet. Listen, hey, I know that we don't like being told what not to do. Don't do this, don't do that. We don't like that, right? But it's just to say that this will save you a lot of frustration, because not every stock makes as clean of a squeeze as you see here. So if you are not accustomed to our trading strategy just yet, you might have 20 years experience in the market, my friend. If you do, perfect. But as a new day trader of CTU, it's just to say we would rather you learn to trade during regular time first. And once you get the confidence with following our strategy during regular time, then we start dipping our feet into deeper pools, into deeper waters there, right? So that's always my thought. But as far as are we expected to buy in pre-market? Well, once you become ingrained into our curriculum, once you become more of a student, you're going through our classes in full. And I don't mean just for 1 month. Let's say if you're a student like Barbara, Michael, Grant, Phil, Laureen, Charlene, Patrick, I could say a number of names in this chat board right now, but these are students that have been with CTU for not just a month. We're talking months, plural. We're talking a year. We're talking years, plural. So the more that you're entrenched into our curriculum, you grow the confidence to realize, loosely speaking, what is what. You grow the confidence to realize where everything is, what to do, when to do it. The difference is that pre-market, and this is where, again, Josh, the instructor, kicks in. We talk about putting our seatbelt on before we start our cars in the morning. We got to make sure that we put our financial seatbelt on at all times. And in pre-market, you can't. You literally can't. You don't have a stop order here in pre-market to use. So I'd rather new traders in general and new students of CTU, even if you have 20 years experience behind you, to learn how to trade during regular hours first and dealing with the type of volatility that we're calling out before going into the pre-market. There's always going to be money to make. That's the thing. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. We see these stocks make moves all during the day, all during the week, at any point. So, if you see a stock run up in pre-market as a new student, don't feel like you're missing out. I'm never going to catch this again. You see these stocks pop all the time. The question is, though, are we going to see them continue? Are we going to see support build? A lot of these stocks don't continue up as nicely as this. So that's where, if it pops up at first and it catches your eye, you jump in, right place, wrong time, or maybe wrong place, wrong time in general, right? And just not at all, and it tanks. That's a huge liability, because, again, you can't set stops. So you might be holding on to a big bag for a long time. That's the thing. Appreciate your feedback, Barbara. She says, I've been with CTU for over 3 years. I keep going to the classes and learn new things every time. I know that because Barbara's probably one of the first students logged into my classes, specifically phases 1 and 2. So I always love having Barbara a part of our classes. And I appreciate her comment right there as well. So, folks, hey, we are going to finish up right now. I can keep going all afternoon, but for all of us on YouTube right now, if you wanted to keep the times rolling with us, just scan that QR code, just center of the screen right there, I guess. Center of the screen with your phone, with your camera right there. Get your week-long access to our live trading room. I'll tell you what, right now, normally this is kind of slow time of the day. Normally, this is where things are typically slowing down a bit. Looks like the market's starting to pop right now, huh? Starting to make a little move, a little technical bull flag maybe building. So there might be a few trades to work with heading into the early afternoon, maybe mid-afternoon coming up. I hope so, because again, as long as there's levels, as long as there's a trend, as long as the stock is tradable, then we will call it out. We'll focus on it. All right. So we look to have you inside our live trading room. If you're already there, our next broadcast will be at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, taking you into the afternoon meeting, and we'll reconvene at that point, folks. All right. I'll talk to everybody soon. Take care.